morning everyone. Please excuse the eye patches. It's very early in the morning and I'm a tired girl. But I wanted to pick up the camera because I have been waiting for this day to come for pretty much the entire year. There is a book releasing today and I have thought about this book every single day of this year. The book I'm referring to is none other than The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy by Brigitte Knightley. And while this is Brigitte Knightley's debut novel, it is not the first work by her that I have read. Brigitte Knightley started out writing fan fiction, and she wrote my favorite fan fiction of all time, which is Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being in Love, and this is the wittiest, most entertaining, well-written, most beautiful slow burn story I have ever read. I'm completely obsessed with it. And so when it was announced, I believe last year, that Brigitte Knightley would be writing a whole new traditionally published novel, which is Irresistible, I couldn't believe my eyes. And I've been thinking about it ever since. So while The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy is not a rewriting of Mortifying, like they're completely different stories, it still is going to have Brigitte's signature style, humor, intelligence. And I've heard from a couple of people who did read an early copy of this book that it's not Dramini, but it's Dramini coded. So to celebrate the book birthday for The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy, one of my friends, who's equally obsessed with this author, and I are going to the city this morning. We're going to hit the bookstore, gonna grab a coffee or a matcha, and then we're just going to sit down together and read the book. And I honestly couldn't think of a better way to spend a random Tuesday morning than doing just that. That's the agenda today. Honestly, that's exactly why I wanted to film. I do have to start getting ready for that now. This is also so off topic, but don't you think it's really satisfying how that tray matches my eye patches? I've just been staring at myself in the viewfinder looking at that. Beautiful. But that is what we're doing today. So welcome to this fantasy reading vlog slash Irresistible Urge vlog. I'm gonna go get ready now and I will see you in the city so that we can pick up this book. A hot new bombshell has entered the villa. I cannot tell you how long I've been waiting for this. I know I literally just said that at the beginning of this video, but this book has been a long time coming and it was so anticipated for me that I barely got any reading done yesterday because I was just so nervous about this book. After waiting for it for so long, I was like, I don't want to pick it up now. This is crazy. Like, how is it in front of me? Yesterday, when my friend and I met up and purchased these books, thank God Dimmicks had them in stock because I would not have been above going to them and saying, hey, do you mind looking in the back? They had this in stock, and then we went to Yochi. We also went to lunch later, and we started with the intention of reading this book. Genuinely, we did. But of course, we ended up yapping for like 5 hours. So not a lot of reading got done, and then I had to come home and get a little bit of work done. I was also doing a bit of work this morning. With that being said, I did read quite a lot late into the night. I'm 74 pages into this book, which doesn't seem substantial, but it is less than 400 pages long, so I think that's a pretty good dent in it. Our main characters have just met. I'll tell you a bit about the plot of this book. It's set in this sort of Old English inspired world, but very much our world, except magic exists and the magic is divided into 8 different orders. And many of these orders are enemies, especially with like the lighter magic order or the darker magical orders. So our main characters are Osric Mordaunt, who is part of the Firen Order. This is a dark order of assassins, and Orion Farum, who is part of the Halen Order of healers. Basically, Osric's magic is leaving him and that will kill him, so he is bribing Orion to help him because otherwise she wouldn't. So they are basically from enemy factions, but they're working together for their own separate ends. The writing is so good. I was giggling, I was laughing, like first page in, and I couldn't stop laughing. Just the way that Brigitte Knightley writes, I don't know how she comes up with these sentences. I don't know what's going on in her mind, but this is just unbelievably funny. Like I said, we're not into the thick of the plot or anything just yet, but I'm going to continue reading today. Unlike yesterday, today is wide open for me. I have plenty of reading I can get done today if I just lock in. I don't have that much time on my hands tomorrow, so I'm gonna try and make as much of a dent into this book as I possibly can today. I'll keep you updated. I still can't really believe this is in front of me. This feels like a dream. I have some excellent news. Good morning, everyone. I'm currently 75% into this book, and the good news is I absolutely freaking love it. I read until my eyes were starting to blur and I couldn't really make sense of the sentences, so I'd say it was pretty unputdownable. I was forced to stop. The key thing about Brigitte Knightley's writing is her use of humor. It's a dry, really sarcastic British kind of humor. I don't know how she thinks of these sentences, but she has me giggling. I already explained the bare bones of the plot to you, and we are very much still on that same journey where Oriane is trying to heal Osric from his fatal magical issue, and this is just a joyful, frankly delightful ride where we go along with them and these two idiots who are determined to not like each other, but they can't help but realize they are starting to kind of want each other and they don't know what to do about it. The thing about Brigitte Knightley, if you have read Mortifying, you'll know this is slow burn queen, and that is very much the case in this book. And I won't lie to you, I know what a slow burn is. This is a slow burn, because even though they might have attraction towards each other, no one is acting on anything, and that's exactly what I expected. That's exactly what the ARC reviewers were saying, that it is a true slow burn in the sense that you're not going to get them like flirting halfway through. That doesn't happen. Now, are they enemies to lovers? No, I wouldn't say they're enemies. I'd say they're rivals. They come from opposing factions. They don't particularly like each other, but it's not enemies in like a daggers to the throat kind of way. It's more so, I don't like you, I think you're really annoying, but I'm gonna put up with you for the sake of our own ends. I love a good slow burn. I love a good I'm attracted to you but I can't have you and you can't have me, you don't want me. I die for it. As I told you yesterday, I keep saying I'm not gonna get too much reading done today, and then I read a lot, so take that with a grain of salt, but I don't have a lot of time on my hands today is what I want to say, because I am going over to paint with a friend. Look at these gorgeous little things we picked up. It was $7, and it's one of those paint by numbers where they give you the paints and then they tell you what color to make everything, and it's supposed to end up looking a little bit like that. So we are going to pretend it's a beautiful summer's day in Australia and paint some beachy kind of photos. Very excited to do that, but that does mean I'm not going to be reading a crazy amount until I come home tonight, and then we will get to reading. This is a lovely short little book. I'm at page 256 right now, and the final page is 389, so I have no doubt that we are going to be very well on our way to finishing this book. And then I have to think of a book to read. I don't know what to read. What could follow a cozy fantasy rom-com? We will see. But that is your update for the day, and I'll see you when I finish the book. This morning I finished The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy, and you know when you hear that there's a book coming out and you build up all these ideas in your head about it, you think it's going to be incredible, you think it'll be divine. I am pleased to report I did think all of those things, and it did in fact happen. I love this book. I'm giving it 4.5 stars. I don't think I've laughed this hard at a book in a very long time. This was just incredible. It was a wild, banter-filled ride, and I think it's important to know what to expect before you go into this book. I'm lucky that I have read Brigitte Knightley's fanfiction, so I knew the sort of writing style, I knew the storytelling that I was getting into. This is a fantasy rom-com, heavy on the comedy, because it's absolutely banter-filled and full of the most, I guess, idiotic kind of humor ever. Expect immaturity, expect just silly slapstick expressions, expect a bit of stupidity. That is what makes it great. You guys already know the plot, you already know the characters. Osric is very much the sassy, arrogant assassin, whereas Oriane is cold, stoic, and led by moral good and all of that. And the way that they clash, the way that they interact with each other and interact with the situations that they find themselves in is just the funniest ride ever. This was just following two idiots who very much like each other but don't want to like each other on a bunch of their shenanigans, and I couldn't be happier about it. I also have my eye on the Illumicrate special edition, but that would cost $100 to send to Australia, so perhaps not. I did see a leak of what the Illumicrate cover was going to be online, and it is stunning. And it's by Frostbite Studios, who creates the best art ever, so Stay tuned. But now I really don't know what to do with myself. I don't know what would be an appropriate follow-up to this book. I think I have two options. Number one, I can read Ladies' Night, which I got sent earlier in the year, if you remember, and that is a sapphic fantasy rom-com set in a medieval world. So very much in a similar vein. I think that would be super fun to read. I just put it down because it wasn't what I was feeling at that time. Or we can switch routes completely and go for the second book in A Song of Ice and Fire, which is A Clash of Kings. That is, of course, epic hardcore fantasy. So I don't really know what to pick, but I will see you when I do pick what to read, and we'll continue this fun little journey together. Over the past few days, I was working a ton, so I didn't really want to pick up the camera and film or anything, but I did end up choosing which book I wanted to start next. The book I chose to start was A Clash of Kings by George R.R. Martin, and the reason I didn't start Ladies' Night was because honestly I just felt that it would be a bit too similar. It is a fantasy rom-com, of course, so I think if I was to read that, I would just be comparing it to Irresistible, and I didn't really want to do that because Irresistible was so flipping good that I was like, any book that follows Irresistible that is in remotely the same sort of genre, it would just be a setup, right? Because how is it going to compare to that? So anyway, even though I wasn't filming because I was at work, I did in fact start A Clash of Kings, I think about 2 days ago, and right now I am 45% into the book. And so far so good. I was actually really impressed when I started A Game of Thrones and noticed just how, I guess, accessible George R.R. Martin's writing, world building, storyline, everything was. I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that I love the Game of Thrones TV show. So these characters are familiar to me, this whole storyline is familiar, it's very easy for me to follow, but I think even if you're a newbie, this is actually a pretty good place to start. Yes, it's complex, yes, it's very well thought out and interesting and sophisticated, but it's so easy to read. So it's dawned on me that this is more of a fantasy reading vlog rather than just an Irresistible reading vlog. This is the book, it's the size of a brick. Let's get to reading and let's see how much we can get through today. Good morning everybody. I'm in a beautiful mood today because I only have 200 pages left of this considerably big book. I don't know how I got so much reading done yesterday. Well, I do know. It's incredibly accessible, incredibly easy to read, and it's the book that inspired my favorite show, so that's probably why I'm flying through it. I know the story. Obviously, I'm going to tell you my thoughts about this book because I really haven't checked in at all. So I really like it. Do I like it more than book one? No. I think book one was a bit better, but this one is still really good nonetheless. As always, we are experiencing a bunch of different POVs, a bunch of different plot lines. We follow, I believe, like 5 to 7 characters within the course of this book. So in terms of like plotline overall, is a lot happening? No, but a lot is happening in each individual person's plotline, and that's why the book is so big, because we are following the same period of time from multiple different eyes, multiple different stories. Something that's really interesting me about reading the books versus watching the show is whose perspective I find the most interesting. Without question, in the book, I find the Stark sisters the most intriguing of all. I want to know what Arya and Sansa are doing. I get excited when their chapters come up. Whereas in the show, I remember Daenerys and Jon were the characters I was the most obsessed with. I really loved following their storylines, especially when it came to Dany, because you could see her character development happening so thoroughly. Whereas in this book, she is largely absent for most of this book. Her chapters are few and far between. Jon and his work beyond the wall, I'm like, I'm not that invested in it, to be quite frank, but whatever Arya's doing, whatever Sansa's doing, I want to know more. I also am really liking Tyrion's perspective. This didn't shock me because my favorite characters are actually Tyrion and Arya from the show. So the fact that I really like their perspectives in the book is exactly what I expected. But yeah, it did surprise me that there was not a lot of airtime given to Daenerys in particular. I'm still flying through it and I feel like I will finish it by lunchtime. Currently 2:16 p.m. and I have just finished A Clash of Kings. I had a wonderful time. This was indeed a 3.75. I think my rating was pretty spot on. Maybe more like 3.85, although I'm not sure I'm allowed to give that rating, but it was very good. As with the first book, I really did find it easy to read. I enjoyed all of the perspectives more or less. Like there was Renly Baratheon in here, Theon Greyjoy, like we got so many newer perspectives and newer plot lines. The only reason I didn't give it a higher rating, honestly, is firstly, I think a lot of perspectives that should have been a bit more prominent were not prominent, and of course I'm talking mainly about Daenerys, but also a little bit about Jon. The introduction of so many different perspectives, like Renly, like Theon, like Stannis. I think Stannis was in here too. Yeah, that can get a little dull sometimes because I know what they're doing in the story having watched the show, but I just like, I don't connect to them yet. Because I'm like, what are you doing? Bottom line, I struggled to connect to some of the new characters as much as I would have liked, and I wanted more prominence of certain perspectives, hence the rating. But 3.85, we'll say that. It's still a very good rating. I still had a really good time with this, and I'm very excited to continue the rest of the series, especially when we get to the part, this really excites me, when Arya is in Bravos. That will be the moment. That will be really good for me. I can't wait to see her join the Faceless Men. But I thoroughly enjoyed our fantasy week together. This has been so much fun. Starting off with Irresistible and then a complete 180 to A Clash of Kings. Fantasy stays my favorite genre because what do you mean? Look at the amount of variety we get. I just love it so much. And that is all from me this week, and I will be seeing you next week. Bye!